Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Sorry about the late update. I'm actually just about to head out to go see the latest episode in Game of Thrones. Episode 3. So I thought before I left, I'd quickly summarize what happened in the previous episode. So for all that being said, this is the official spoiler alert warning. It's going to be nothing but spoilers from here on out with both episode 2 and 3 when I get back. And frankly, at this point, by the time this video comes out, if you haven't watched both episode 3 and 2, I'm just going to assume you either don't care about spoilers or you're not really invested in the show. So either way, welcome. And frankly, I feel like I can just wrap up the previous episode because not a whole lot happened in it, but I feel like it's due to the fact that everything just happens in Winterfell. No one really leaves. So everything is happening just in that confined area and no one's really sneaking around plotting anymore. So I get how it can feel like not a whole lot's going on. But frankly, I feel like that entire episode was just a complete makeup for all the problems I had in the previous episode, which I know it's kind of funny to say because you're supposed to take all the information from each of the videos, but when only one video comes out at a time, you can only go with the information that you have with the first episode. So with my previous problems in episode 1 where I was like, you know, the reunion scenes kind of fell flat, you know, everything feels like it's kind of rushed. This episode felt like they were just taking their time and just reminding us all about what we love about these characters, so that when we get to episode 3 and the war finally starts, we're just sitting there tearing our nails out with our teeth going, oh my god, I don't want any of these people to die. They're all unicorns, especially Tormund. He's magic. Along with 2 or 3 really major scenes that we're going to get to in a second. So first up, to start the episode, you had Jaime's trial, which again, despite what I said, it does feel like this episode still suffers from a little bit of some pacing issues where things are just moving a little too quickly because it just ends as soon as it begins. You have Brienne coming in vouching for Jaime and basically everyone just like, well, you know, if Brienne likes her, pass. It just felt like the episode was just like, oh, okay, you know, we got a lot more important scenes to get to, so let's just wrap it up and move along. I mean, Bran does get a pretty slick burn in right before the trial ends where he's just like, the things we do for love, Clarice. And even Jaime's like, oh. And after the trial, you see Jon going to meet with Ed, and then he gets surprise hugged by Tormund out of nowhere, and I'm just sitting there like, maybe it's not the best idea for you to tackle hug the king in the north. Tormund, you're a treasure and I'll value you always. I don't care what anyone says. But then Tormund just basically lays it out that they had to ride around the White Walker army, and basically anyone who isn't in Winterfell is not coming. They're a part of the Horde now. So it's like, oh. So there goes my idea that Jon Snow is going to be going with Daenerys and her dragons to see House Glover to try to bring them back in the fold because, you know, they're dead. You have Dany and Sansa having a scene together, which was starting to get kind of touching at first, where they're both joking around, they're palling up, and it's making you go like, yeah, okay, they're working something out. They're probably going to be like, oh, we're going to be super besties after this, so we're going to be like the ultimate duo team of the intellectual minds, so we're going to fuck everyone up now. And then Sansa follows up immediately with, so what happens to the North afterwards? Had to open your mouth, didn't you? And even Daenerys is like, oh. And I was just kind of waiting for her to be like, well, depending on how many dragons I have left after this whole Night King situation is dealt with, I guess it'll have entirely to do with what I'm feeling like in the moment, which will most likely be bend the knee, bitch. We then get to see the war plan for Winterfell, where everyone just comes in and discusses how the battle's going to plan out, where basically it's broken down that they're not going to be able to win a head-to-head confrontation against the Night King. And based on the figures on the war table, it kind of debunks the first half of my theory in one of my previous videos. But during this scene, we do get to hear from Bran who the Night King really is after all this time. The great mystery is finally over, and apparently he's just Ice Zombie Terminator. Alright, that it? Not the direction I was expecting, but we do learn that because the Night King has that mark on Bran, he's basically going to be honing in on him specifically. So the plan's been made that they're going to try to lure him in by making it look like he's being left out in the open. And then you had Theon coming in to volunteer to act as guard for him while he's out there by himself, which I really did appreciate. Theon's had a pretty long, rough road during this entire show, and I'm really glad to see this full redemption of his character, and I appreciate that. Probably more than most of the other characters throughout this show, definitely more than Jaime at this point. And then we come to probably one of the most controversial parts of that episode, which is the sex scene between Arya and Gendry, which, come on, let's be honest, we all saw it coming. I can get that for a lot of people it could seem a little awkward, given that we've watched this character since she was a child and then grow up all the way through these seasons and then having this sex scene with another person. But the overwhelming backlash that I've seen on fan pages where people are just like, oh, you know, I've just had to like fast forward through that. It's just so uncomfortable. And I'm just sort of like, uncomfortable. Very strange choice of words to use for a show where we see a pregnant lady getting gut stabbed multiple times, while the family dog's head is sewn onto the murdered husband's body and then paraded around, where we see attempted child murder, children murdering other children, children murdering adults, incest, rape, incestuous rape, and between all the blood, guts, and gore from episode 1 to now, to top it all off, mass murder. Please tell me more about this uncomfortable feeling you're having for, let's be honest, a fairly PG-13 sex scene between a now 22-year-old girl having sex with someone that she cares about that, surprising given this show's track record, isn't one of her siblings. It just kind of shows our mindset of what our priorities are. Murder and gore? We'll let that one pass, but the consensual PG-13 sex scene, I gotta fast forward through that. I don't know, maybe I just get that it's just a show. Then you have Jon and Dany meeting in the crypts of Winterfell, where Jon finally reveals his true identity to Dany, now that he knows who he is. And I just love the fact that they go through every means possible to avoid coming to the reality that these two are family members that ended up sleeping with each other. Which frankly, I feel like would probably be one of the first things that you would have to end up talking about at some point. It's like, oh yeah, you know, I'm actually the true-born heir to the Seven Kingdoms. Yeah, that's all well and good, man, but you fucked your aunt, bro. You done fucked up, mate. Well, I didn't know. Yeah, you seem to not know a lot, but you had something on you there. We're gonna be talking about this a lot. And to top it off, we probably get one of the most touching scenes in Game of Thrones, which is the knighting of Brienne of Tarth, where Jaime fulfills Brienne's lifelong dream of finally becoming a knight of the realm, even though traditionally it's not really a thing that happens in Westeros, but Tormund said it best, fuck tradition. And you can really just see it in her eyes after the ceremony's done, where her eyes are all tearing up. And of course, Tormund's the first one clapping for it. And that's probably the greatest lesson of that video. Get yourself someone in your life that wants to see you succeed and be happy the same way Tormund does for Brianna, okay? Everybody needs a Tormund in their life. And as I said before, if there is not a House Giantsbane founded by those two, by the end of this series, this entire thing has been a waste of my time for 10 years. 10 years! Down the drain! And then we get this surprising singing number from Podrick of all people, which I feel like is going to become the next Lord of the Rings song, where, you know, that song Pippin sings in Return of the King, where Faramir's riding off into battle to meet the orc army, and he's singing that song while the horses are charging into battle. I feel like it's up there with that same level of emotion. It was just really well done, and I loved it. I've been listening to that probably all week. I don't know why. It's just stuck in my head, and I can't get rid of it. So we definitely figured out who the bard is of this group of characters. And then finally, the show ends with the arrival of the Night King's army. And that's where I'm going to end this portion of the video. I might split this up into 2 videos. I'm now going to go straight into watching episode 3. Oh my god. I really don't want to see this episode. So many people are going to die. I don't want to go see this episode. Time to man up. It's Game of Thrones time. If you like this episode, give me a like. If you want to see more, please think about subscribing. And I'll see you guys after I'm done with episode 3. Be right back.